When I first started entering this space, I did write a blog post, a guest blog post on a blog that is put out by a particular website development company that focuses on this niche. And I got a client that way. She read it and she said, "It's like you're reading my mind. All the questions that I had, all the problems that I've been thinking about, da 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 da. You said them in the blog post." That was a fun client. They were a tour and resort company in the Bahamas. I remember one time I was asking them, what kind of fixed assets do you have? And she said, "What's a fixed asset?" And I thought, I'm going to need to come there, I think, because, I know that they had villas and they had equipment and all these things. I thought, I think I'm going to have to go and make a list. And I thought, but am I making up excuses to to go to the Bahamas? And so I actually ran it by some other tax people. And I said, I feel like I'm just making up an excuse, but I feel like I really need to go, and everybody's like, yeah, it sounds ordinary and necessary to me. I never went though, but.
Hey, and welcome to the Ambitious Bookkeeper podcast. I'm Serena Shoup. I am a CPA and mom of 3, and I'm running a virtual bookkeeping business mostly from my home. You're in the right place if you're a bookkeeper, accountant, or an accounting student, and you know that your purpose is bigger than sitting in a cubicle. If you're ready to learn some actionable tips and strategies to help you start and grow a bookkeeping or accounting business, I hope you stick around. Welcome back to the Ambitious Bookkeeper podcast. I'm your host, Serena Shoup. This is part of our niche series. As part of this series spanning July and August, you'll be listening in on interviews with niche bookkeepers and accountants. I thought it would be really inspirational and super valuable to bring on bookkeepers and accountants who have built niche firms to take you behind the curtain of what it looks like to get to the point of serving in a specific niche. My hope is that you'll gain the inspiration and information that will help you hone in on your niche, or if you already have one, find different ways to help your clients. I'll be asking some similar questions of each of our guests, like what their minimum fee is, how they got into their niche, and what their firm team structure looks like. I'm super excited to bring this to you, and I hope that you enjoy. If you're ready to hone in on your own niche and build a bookkeeping business that gives you the life that you want, check out the Bookkeeping Business Accelerator by going to ambitiousbookkeeper.com/BBA. The link is also in the show notes. If finding a perfect fit client is something that you've needed, check out my mini course, The Bookkeeping Client Closer. Go to ambitiousbookkeeper.com/closer. All the links will be in the show notes. Now let's get into today's episode. Today I have Kirstin Reader on with us. Welcome, Kirstin. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah.
I'm Kirstin Reader, and I own Purple Sapphire Business Solutions. I'm a virtual firm based out of Aurora, Colorado, and we do bookkeeping and tax work. On the bookkeeping side, we only work with travel and tourism clients. And on the tax side, we kind of do any industry, really. I mean, there are some industries that I won't touch, but for the most part, I work with any business owner. So, yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, so before we hit record, I was like, would you like to talk about your story? And you're like, I don't know about talking about myself. But then we decided it would be really cool to hear about how you got into bookkeeping.
So a long time ago in high school, those little career questionnaire things, I took one of those, and like I was a junior or something, and it said I should look into accounting. And I thought, what's accounting? I don't even know what that is. So I took an accounting class my senior year of high school, and really it was bookkeeping, but I loved it. It was so fun. And we had like the paper checks that we would pretend to write, and the T accounts and all that stuff. And I just loved it. And so when I went to college, I was an accounting major, but I didn't like all the corporate stuff, because the further I got in my studies, it was like all this crazy stuff. And I remember having to learn about like present value and and all this. And I thought, why this has nothing to do with anything that I'm going to be doing. I don't want to work with like corporate stuff. I want to work with small businesses. Well, I ended up dropping out of college to go to work while my husband was in veterinary school, and I became a stay-at-home mom, and I was stay-at-home homeschooling mom for 18 years. And then I decided when my youngest child was like 7 months old, I heard about a bookkeeping course and I signed up and have not looked back. And I started my business when he was that old. That was 7.5 years ago. And I added tax later. And I don't know. I just love it. And I love all things bookkeeping, and which makes me feel kind of nerdy, but
That's okay. You're in the right place.
Yeah, exactly. I've always been like, my mom will say, oh, I balanced my checkbook within, $500. And I'm like, no, it's like to the penny every time, Mom. What are you talking about? If I am a penny off, I'm going to find that penny because that means there's something wrong somewhere. So, and same thing with like tax returns. I actually like S Corp and partnership tax returns because there's a balance sheet on there, and that means everything has to balance. And so I know that things are more right than if I didn't have that. So anyway, I just love all of that stuff and I geek out about it. But hey, like you said, I'm in the right place. I'm sure that listeners are like, oh yeah, I know exactly what she's talking about. But I have 9 kids and I homeschool all of them. Well, I mean, 5 have graduated, but I still have 4 at home. So working from home and having my firm all remote has been just perfect. So that's what I do.
That's amazing. Okay. So when it comes to the niche that you're in, did you start, when you started your business, did you know you wanted to go into that, or like, how did you land there?
I did not. I was like dead set. I'm going to work with sustainable agriculture because I have a passion for that. We don't live on a farm, but we do have land and things like that. And we were wanting to move that direction one day. And so I said, I am going to work with sustainable farmers and work, they need me, da, 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 da. And it was a real fight because I figured out over time that a lot of those people came from the corporate business world and moved into farming because they had a passion for it. So they knew all the things that I was trying to teach them, and they kind of liked doing all of the businessy, bookkeeping-y things on the side. So I never got any clients with them, even after like a year, because I was having to convince them of their need for me, period. So then I thought, another up and coming niche would be cannabis. And that's a whole world all on its own. And I fought really hard in there too. But I finally got tired of being the bookkeeper and the tax expert and the attorney and the person who knew all the regulations. So I decided against that. But I went back. So I sat down and I looked at what my clientele actually was. Because during all this time, I was accepting clients, but they were kind of all over the map and not in the niche that I was targeting. So I thought, okay, I'm going to look at who am I working with? And the first client that I got is, because they're still with me, a gondola cruise client, like Venetian gondolas with the boats and the guy in stripes, and he stands on the back of the boat and sings. They have operations here in the US. There's several all across the US, and I started working with one of them. And I thought, that's kind of a fun niche. And so that's kind of where I started with them. And I expanded. I don't just work with gondola companies because there aren't very many of them, but pretty much anybody that is an activity company of some sort, like canoe outfitters, kayak companies, zip line tours, anybody like that. Tour companies that are like multi-day tours. Like I have a couple tour companies in Italy, or like a food tour company, and then travel agents. And it's more like travel agencies, because individual travel agents usually don't have enough revenue to really need me or work with me. I don't typically work with anybody in the accommodations space, like glampers or cabin rentals or anything like that. I have a referral partner that came from the hotel and accommodations industry. And so I refer everything out to him. But I still kind of am next to that niche, because a lot of times the glampers will be right next to a whole bunch of activities. And so I do still kind of like, I attend those conferences and things like that, just to kind of be right there with them. But it's fun. It's a fun niche. And like anytime I've gone, like I went skydiving. And so I was sure to buy the photo package so that I could use all the photos in my marketing and things. Like, now I'm going to not do the one where like my cheeks are doing weird things or something like that. But
Smart.
Yeah, or like kayaking, or we just recently went on at BKX, we went on a gondola cruise with my client. And so I've got all sorts of pictures from that. And so it's super, super fun. And nobody is working with these people. And some of them are really smart business people. Like I know some of the outfitters, they are like, we want to have bonuses for our employees. And I mean, they're like into it. So it's been super, super fun. I wish I could do all the things that my clients actually do, but
right. So do you mainly get clients from attending these conferences, or is it a lot of referrals now?
It's referrals. Like I have a couple really good referral partners. And since it is such a small group of people that work in this industry, like I have a CPA referral that he doesn't do taxes. He does a lot of like high level analysis, and he'll help owners evaluate their pricing or their employee bonus structure, or, just all these different things. I get a lot of referrals from him, because if he doesn't have good numbers in the books, then he can't really do the analysis that he needs. Or I have a couple of clients that apparently really, really like me, because they are constantly telling all their people in their space about me. In fact, I was just before I got on with you, I was replying to emails from yet another referral from one of my clients. I mean, she's constantly giving me referrals. So I at this point, I attend the conferences just to learn more about their pains and what they're concerned about. I have not actually had a booth at a conference, although that is in the future, because I love doing booths. I just love them. So yeah, it's mostly almost all referral and word of mouth.
We'll be back after a quick break.
This episode of the Ambitious Bookkeeper podcast is sponsored by my brand new free training, The Ultimate Guide to Creating a Profitable Bookkeeping Business. In just 1 hour, you will learn 3 keys to creating and launching a profitable bookkeeping business. We will map out your path to creating a bookkeeping or accounting business that keeps you in control of your time, priorities, and expertise. From someone who built a 6-figure firm on part-time hours. That's right. You can stay in control of your time, keep family as your priority, and serve your clients well. It just takes a little strategy up front, and I'm going to help you with that during this free training. So head over to the show notes to sign up now for the next training and find out how you can choose the work you do, kick imposter syndrome to the curb, use tech to be super efficient, which all leads to a profitable business. Just head on over to ambitiousbookkeeper.com/training, and I will see you there. Awesome.
Yeah.
So that brings me to another question. How many clients do you currently have?
I currently have 8 bookkeeping clients and then around 70, 75-ish tax clients, I think. I haven't looked lately, but yeah, 8 bookkeeping clients. 2 of them are pretty big, and then others are smaller. And then I've got a couple that we've been kind of dancing around starting with me, but they haven't actually jumped fully on board yet. So we just keep talking, and I'm here whenever they're ready. So I don't want to force them. On the flip side, one in particular, she said, I'm going to need you to like stay on me about things. I'm like, okay, but at the same time, it's your business, it's not mine. So there's a little bit of ownership there that comes into play, but we're doing the dance right now.
Yeah. So are you working solo? Do you have anyone on your team helping? What's the status with your team structure?
I have a bookkeeper. She's part-time, but I'd say she does about half of my clients right now. She does one of the big ones, and then 2 of the smaller. I do have 2 non-niche clients that were from before that I kept. I have like a tattoo shop and then it's a camera guy actually. And they're just super easy and easygoing, easy to work with. So I said, oh, we'll keep you, but she works with them. And then the big one, and then I kind of handle everybody else at this time. And then I have a part-time tax preparer who helps me with tax season, but it's primarily me with taxes. I'd love to hire another tax preparer for this upcoming season, because the guy that I have is good, but he's got his own business, and I know that he doesn't have a lot of bandwidth. And so I'd love to hire someone else to really take on a lot of my tax clients for tax season. So I guess I should probably get on that and get that lined up before January. So yeah, and also I only can work in my business about 20 to 25 hours a week with homeschooling and all the taxing that I do. Although my daughter is going to get her license in a month, and it's going to be fantastic because she'll be able to drive herself to work rather than me. Because she's been working since she was 14. So I've been having to take her back and forth to work, and it's going to be wonderful. So I probably will have a little bit more time to actually work.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so funny. I hear people talk about, only work 25 hours in your business or something. And I'm thinking, I would love to be able to work more. I'm coming at it from the different direction that everybody else is, but oh, well, that's okay.
Yeah, that I have that too, because I only work about 20 hours. And then there's times where I'm like, I really needed an extra 5 hours that I could work this week. And so I end up pulling an all-nighter.
Exactly. And then I wake up in the morning and I think, what did I do overnight?
Yeah. But it's the season we're in, and that's what is beautiful about this business, is having that flexibility of not having to be doing 8-hour office days. You know what I mean? Like where we're available for our clients, like you can set it up to where you have availability for clients, but it's more in your control. And then you have the flexibility to do life.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because right now is when a lot of my clients are busy. Like my outfitter people, I'm struggling to hear back from them just because this is their busy time of the year. And then my gondola people, it's February 14th, man, that is their Black Friday. Everything hinges around Valentine's Day. for them. So yeah, the rest of the year is busy, but everything is Valentine's Day, all hands on deck. That's when they're going to be ordering pizza for their crew. They really don't the rest of the time, but that's when that's when they've got their gondoliers that work one day a year. That's when they work. So
Yeah.
it's interesting to learn who's busy, who's not, when, etc. So I try to gauge that with where I am, and then tax season. And anyway, it seems like there's always something going on.
So do you find that your clients need a different level of service when they're seasonal like that, or there's other things that you need to know or pay attention to help them through the the off season? Do you change your pricing in the off season? What does everything look like?
I don't change my pricing because it all evens out over the year.
Mm-hmm.
But I am learning that I have to communicate with them a little bit differently. Like I may insist on, email or through my portal all the time. But if they are just going with their hair on fire in their own business because they're so busy and this is their busy time of year, they might not have time to check their email. And so I may have to text them and say, hey, sent you an email, or like I'm doing a cleanup right now with a guy that it is his super busy season. And I've got him on a retainer because we weren't sure how much cleanup we were going to actually have to do. We've got a huge mess that we're cleaning up from some previous bookkeepers. And I know, and so I sent him an invoice and it hasn't been paid. And I finally texted him and said, hey, just so you know, this hasn't been paid yet. Normally I would not do that. And I really try hard. Okay, we're going to communicate through email, Zoom meeting, the messaging through my portal. But sometimes when I know they really do not have time, then I'll send them a text because they've always got their phone. Yeah. So, but I don't like to do that, but I have to sometimes. Or sometimes I know, okay, they are not going to be available for a meeting, but then they're more available, in November, or that's when they're really doing a lot of their thinking about the rest of the year. That's when they're working on their business, is in October, November. Also, some of the clients that I have, they have to have certain reports for it's called a franchise, but it's through like the National Park Service. And so they have to have certain reports that are extra from what a typical client would have, I think. And so I helped them with that. So it all just kind of varies on what they need, but I really, as I'm learning more about these types of clients and learning that it's not just, oh, hey, I'm going to open up this business. They've got governing authorities saying you're opening on March 1st, whether or not you're ready, your doors have to be open on March 1st.
They have contracts with like the city parks or whatever. Yeah. I live in Prescott, Arizona. And so we have like 5 lakes. And this year, one of the kayaking companies has expanded to more lakes. They used to only be at 2, but it's like, I'm sure there's contracts because they have like a boxcar basically parked at all the lakes with all their equipment. So yeah, that makes total sense. So is that something that like you include in your packages to help them stay compliant with things like that? Or?
Well, I don't usually have packages, although I don't know, I'm always all over the place when it comes to my pricing and stuff. But when I do a consultation, I'll find out, do you have that? Because I typically do a custom quote for each prospect. And that is something that I'll find out because that makes the difference in the pricing. Do you have this? I think it's called all I know is it's an AFR. What that AFR stands for, I think it's annual financial report. Maybe it would make sense, but I don't know for sure that that's what it's called. But I know that all concessioners, because that's what they're called with the National Park Service, they need this. Or, how are they doing it's a tax, but it's kind of like a franchise fee type of thing. And it's treated some people treat it like a sales tax where they collect it from the activity participants. I don't know what you call them, the customers. But they'll collect it from them and then pay it. Other concessioners, they don't. So it's like, how do you handle this? I don't know. So it's really, I just really try and find out as much as I can in the consultation so that I can include that in my pricing if it needs to be a thing. Also, do they want accrual? Do they want cash? Because for the companies, the activity companies that it's just real quick turnaround, they're running 50 kayaks a day and the people have paid for it maybe the day before or the week before. Typically cash works really good for them just because it's in and out, in and out, in and out. But if we've got a multi-day tour that a customer books a year in advance, then I've got them on accrual because they might have 5 tours during the year and they might collect a whole bunch of money at one time. And they're also really focused on, is this particular tour making money? Things like that. So I really, really work on my consultations to find out as much as possible. And of course, it never fails. I always am blindsided on the backside. I'm like, oh, I should have known this, but
yeah. Have you over the years compiled like a running list of like the very important questions and that's where this is where it's beneficial to have a niche is like you really, and you've learned what their pain points are and what their requirements are by going to these conferences. And so you can continue to build upon that questionnaire or that your consultation agenda, whatever you want to call it, like the list of questions that you have for them. And they're going to know, the industry by asking these questions.
Or even things like what booking software do you use? Do you use Fair Harbor? Do you use We Travel? Do you use Peak? I can ask them which one they use and they'll know, oh, she knows what she's talking about. And I'll even
they don't have to teach you.
Right. I'm like, oh yeah, I love the reports in Fair Harbor and da 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 da, or oh, Adventure Office does da 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 da, and I also know enough about some of these softwares to know this one's a pain in the butt to use. I need to charge extra if they're using this software because I'll have to do this, that, and the other to get it into QuickBooks rather than, there might be a direct integration. Of course, those never work either, but in theory, I'm learning how to get the information from here to there, or is it something that I have to do manually, which is never fun. So yeah, having a niche like this really, really helps because, or I'll ask them questions about their staff. I'll know a lot of times they're very part-time. There's a lot of turnaround, and sometimes they'll just have employees kind of ghost them and disappear and they don't know what happened. I mean, one of my clients, they said, I think and you can probably take him off. I think he died. But I don't know for sure, just heard it through the grapevine, and so we can probably terminate him in the payroll. So,
oh my goodness,
there's not really a quitting date. So I know that now to be kind of work with
That's
them.
kind of how the restaurant industry is.
Exactly.
Like lots of turnover, people ghost. don't come in for their shifts and then come back the next day like nothing happened.
Exactly. That is what they run into. That's what they run into. Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. So, okay. So we talked about client load, team size. You said you don't really do packages. So what is like your pricing methodology? Do you do like a menu pricing where it's like they need this, this, and this, and you have prices set for that?
Yeah. I use GoProposal for my software template, whatever you call it, because I like it that it's got a calculator and the proposal and engagement letter all in one. In GoProposal, you can set up packages, but those are just kind of like the starting point of where to start, and then you can customize from there. And so, yeah, I have it based off of transactions, whether or not they're cash or accrual. And again, based on, are they going to be a multi-day tour or are they one of these activity companies? Oh, I was talking with another guy who's just starting to venture into this space he's a bookkeeper as well. And he has an activity company that wants accrual. And that is rough because you've got so many ins and so many outs, and it really doesn't make that much of a difference, but his guy wants it like this. And
I guess it really only makes a difference at month end. Like during the month, it's like whatever, but you just want to make sure you get like anything that was paid in January that should have, that was for an activity in February, like the month end cutoff thing. So
that tricky thing is knowing how much that is, and with the software and things like that. So I was showing him some things, but yeah, I would absolutely charge more for that because that's
an extra month-end entry.
It is. Well, and it's a huge calculation too. It's not just an entry because you can't just pull it up. And so, things like that. What else do I take into account? I take into account how many third-party software things do they use? Are they using Fair Harbor? And sometimes people will they might sell like cozies or
merch.
What do they call the merch, the t-shirts, the hats,
or like concessions. Like I know our kayaking outfitters, they have like a concession stand right there, like built in. So like waters and snacks and things.
So a lot of times they'll run those on Square. And so, are they using Fair Harbor? Are they using Square? What all do they have as far as that goes? I take that into account because chances are I'm going to have to use SASANT somewhere along the lines with them. So I just look at all of those different things.
Do any of your clients deal in like actual cash? And is that a component that you add to the pricing?
Some do,
like not very much anymore.
Not a lot, because a lot of times they are booking online. And so I think probably the only place that cash might come in is with the merch and the concessions and things like that. They typically are not paying cash to rent the kayak or something like that, because usually they had to rent it ahead of time. I don't even know if any of my people take walk-ins. But I don't know. I think it all depends. I know my gondola people don't. You have to, because they have to like make sure that there's somebody there to actually do your tour.
Our kayaking rental places take walk-ins, but you still have to go online and book it. Like they have an iPad there in case you don't have your own. Yeah.
That is probably so that you can sign the waiver.
Yes, that too.
Mm-hmm. And that's also built into their booking software. The whole waiver process is another big thing. And then also, and see, here's how I talk to them, because I'm like, so like if they're talking about some random software that they use that I've never heard of, I'll start asking them questions about it, like, so does it collect the email of the people that are signing the waivers? Because then you can retarget your marketing and reach out to those people. And I'm like giving them ideas along the way that have nothing to do with accounting. But it's just like, I
The
want
value
them,
add.
yeah, it's a value add. I want them to know that I am
Business savvy.
Yes. I want them to know that I want to help them succeed. And oh, here's this little idea that you can do. And a lot of times they do know, but then they're like, oh, that's a good idea. Or that's something important to look for in a booking software, that it collects the email address of the people signing the waiver and things like that. But yeah, I really, really try to do that sort of thing. Again, to make them realize, yeah, I kind of do know what I'm talking about. Am I an expert? No, but I'm not just
Becoming one though.
Yeah, I'm not just some person who's like, so what's a gondola?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've found that as I get further into the niche that I'm in, when I've spoken at some retreats and stuff for business owners in my niche, and one of the questions from an audience member was like, how important is it that we work with someone that knows our industry? And the host of the retreat is one of my clients. And she was like, well, I will say firsthand that I used to work with a bookkeeper that said she understood the industry, but it was very obvious that she didn't once I met Serena.
Right.
So it's like there's less explaining you have to do, less back and forth of like, what's this expense? What is it for? Like, we already know, we see the same software across all our clients. We understand the payment processors you're using. We understand how all the systems function together. And we don't need you to guide us through that. Like, we are going to come to you with minimal questions at the end of every month.
Right. Exactly. Case in point, my gondola people, I don't know if they have a contract necessarily with different restaurants in their areas, but they'll provide food on their cruises, but they buy the food from the little Italian place on the corner or whatever. So they have tons of receipts that come through for food, but they're not meals. They're not 50%.
Those are cost of goods.
Yes, that's cost of goods.
Yeah.
And so any other bookkeeper who didn't know that, they would see all these receipts come through, throw them in 50% meals, and
owner's draw.
Or owner's draw, yes. And they would miss out on that deduction. But since we know, oh, here's what they're doing, yeah, it's not even a consideration. In fact, I assume for them, because I know that they never buy meals, hardly ever. I know, oh yeah, these are almost always. Now, if someone comes through like from Subway or something, that I'm like, that's weird. And I'll find out, oh yeah, so-and-so was traveling, Okay, that one's a legitimate 50% meal. But yeah, things like that. Or I don't know, just like you said, there's just this expertise that, based on knowing this industry, you don't have to ask tons and tons of questions. And I think they don't have time. They do not have time, because a lot of these times it's not just this owner and everybody's doing everything for them. They are the ones.
They're out there slinging the kayaks.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Yeah, driving people in the shuttle back and forth to where they put in and put out. And they're doing the things. Yeah. Because they're a little mom and pop.
Yeah. The other thing that I found really valuable is, and this was the other thing that I said, is like, also, I work with lots of other clients in this industry, and I can see trends that are happening across the industry. And I'll know if something that's happening with you is an anomaly or whatever, and we can talk about it. Or if it's like, across the board, our clients are seeing a dip in sales. Or for you, it's like, it's a seasonal business. Like, you're already going to understand like how to price it. You don't want to, you know what I mean? Like, and if someone is inexperienced with a seasonal business, they might think that maybe the window in history of stuff that they looked at when they did their analysis to price is during the slow season. So then they massively underprice, right?
Right. Well, like one of my canoe outfitters, he opens in March because, that's what his contract says. In March, they're done by June because that's when the river dries up and it's too low for them to do anything. And again, in talking with them, I noticed that he wasn't replacing his canoes. He was as they were getting broken or whatever, he was replacing them with kayaks. And I talked with him and he said, yeah, kayaks are what's all the rage. The guy that I bought the business from kept saying, oh yeah, no one ever wants a canoe, but our kayaks are always sold out. And he said, I'm going to start buying kayaks so that I can meet the demand that's there. And so, I don't know, talking with them about that, just all the different things that they have going on. And it helps to just know, like you said, the trends. Oh my gosh, 2020 was a nightmare for so many of these people. But at the same time, since they're outdoorsy, now the tour companies where they were like traveling to different countries, they did not do well. But my outdoor activity people, they really, some of them, I guess technically they qualified for PPP and stuff, but they really didn't have a dip in sales and they grew because you're already outside, you're already socially distanced.
Yeah.
They were able to shift a little bit easier than I think like a restaurant or something like that had to do. But yeah, industry trends or any of that, it's helpful to know what's going on and to just kind of maybe anticipate. Maybe you don't even need to say anything, but you just see it and you can expect to hear, oh, yep, it's happening to them too. Oh, yep, it's happening to them too. And even though I may only have 8 clients in this space, I'm involved in it. Like I'm in the Facebook groups and I just kind of lurk and listen and learn and see what's going on. And I don't know, kind of do like some recon and just to help myself be more knowledgeable so I can help them. All that stuff helps, I think.
Yeah. So do you create any content or anything specific for this niche? I know you get most of your clients from referrals, and you probably don't need to create content, but do you have anything that you do?
Only because I'm terrible at it. That is so not my skill set at all. Also, my brain is always just in 15 million different places. I would love to, but my hair is usually on fire. So
yeah, it doesn't sound like you even really need to. I
did years ago when I first started entering this space. I did write a guest blog post on a blog that is put out by a particular website development company that focuses on this niche. And I got a client that way. She read it and she said, it's like you're reading my mind. All the questions that I had, all the problems that I've been thinking about, you said them in the blog post. That was a fun client. They were a tour and resort company in the Bahamas, which normally I wouldn't take in a company outside of the US, but they don't have income tax there. And they keep their dollar, the Bahamian dollar, equal to the US dollar. So there wasn't all sorts of crazy multi-currency. Oh, that's another thing that I add into my pricing as well. Are we dealing with multi-currency? Because that's a whole thing. So I had them for a while till COVID hit, and then everything tanked it because they closed the entire island. And anyway, it was a whole big mess. But that was a really fun client too. And I remember one time I was asking them, what kind of fixed assets, because I had no balance sheet from them. And I said, what kind of fixed assets do you have? And she said, what's a fixed asset? And I thought, I'm going to need to come there, I think, because, I know that they had villas and they had equipment and all these things. And I thought, I think I'm going to have to go and make a list. And I thought, but am I making up excuses to go to the Bahamas? And so I actually ran it by some other tax people. And I said, I feel like I'm just making up an excuse, but I feel like I really need to go, and everybody's like, yeah, it sounds ordinary and necessary to me. I never went though, but
Yeah. I mean, that's like when I was in corporate, I used to every month I would travel out to our lab and do the inventory count. So it's like the same thing. And there's usually like every year you do a fixed asset inventory too. So I mean, that's the same thing.
I know. I was because here it is. It's just resorts and they do like the little swimming with pigs or whatever tours, and yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's a thing.
That doesn't sound fun.
But yeah, and I thought, am I just really making up something? But I don't think I was. But never made it out there, but man, I really wanted to. But anyway, yeah, she found me through this blog post, and so that's one thing I would like to do that again. Write a fresher blog post for either this company or some other company that has a blog, not necessarily an accounting company, but like I said, they provide websites and they'll create a website, or there's some other like marketing or things like that, companies specific for this industry, and we all kind of work together.
Yeah,
So,
that's a good tip for anyone listening, is like, if you're not up for doing podcast interviews or doing speaking, like doing a guest blog is great evergreen content, because especially if it's on a website that is well known or whatever in that industry, and doing your own blogging too. That's something that I've been doing. I just do one blog post a month, but I'm just building out resources based on questions that I get from clients or other business owners, that it's like, there's a right or wrong answer, but so it's not like we need to evaluate your specific situation. You know what I mean?
yeah. Do you just do it in your niche? Are these like niche blog posts, or
I try to tie them into my niche. Like I'll mention, because my keywords, right? You want to use your niche keywords. But I mean, if we're honest, it's information that applies to basically any business. You just change the wording and the language and the lingo that you're using, and use examples from your niche. And yeah, so it's like, it's a long game, but it's also I've gotten clients from my blogs by not necessarily them finding it on their own, but from me engaging in a Facebook group, and someone is like, oh, I have a question about like, how do I handle employee versus contractor? It's like, oh, I wrote a blog on this. Here it is. And then they are like, maybe I should just work with you.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Yeah. Or even it sets you up as an industry expert, even if they didn't find you because of that particular question, as they go checking you out on your website, which I really update my website, something terrible but I don't have time. And anyway,
well, I have a great person for you if you're interested.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things where it's mostly the copy, like the actual website. I really like it and everything, but the copy is the issue. And I don't even know what I want to do. Anyway, it's this whole thing. As they're checking out your website and they're reading about you and everything, when they go into your blog posts and read, they're going to know, oh yeah, she knows what she's talking about. Okay. She's not this general person that, works with anybody or whatever. And so I don't know, so far, most of the time people say, I love that you just work with this industry. And I don't know, business owners seem to like that.
One question I have for you before we hit our time, this has been an amazing conversation, is there a size of business that you kind of require them to be, like a revenue range or volume or whatever, to make it worth it to work with you? And do you have a minimum price?
Yeah, that's been an issue because one, I want to help all the people, and that translates to no money for me because they can't afford me. Also, one issue is especially the multi-day tours that need accrual, and they're and they really need it to be able to figure out, is this even worth it? They can't afford it when they're just starting. So I have fudged a little where I probably should not have fudged, and, done like, oh yeah, we'll do like $100 a month type thing. But that ends up biting me in the rear, because a lot of times those clients are the ones who are like super, super needy. And I hear from them all the time with every question under the sun. But ideally, my minimum is $300 a month. I have found that they need to be around 100 to 150 in gross revenues in order to be able to afford that. I do have a client, I think they're around like 70-ish thousand in gross revenues, that they do pay me the $300 a month. However, they're living off of love. I mean, they don't pay themselves anything. They live very, very frugally. And, I feel kind of bad about that. But at the same time, they are building up their business too.
Yeah.
It's not just that this is steady. I have also started some of these the lower paying ones. I have started to let them know, okay, here's where your pricing should be based on all the things, all the criteria. But I realize you're just getting started, because some of these people just started their companies in like 2021 or something like that. So they might have like 1 or 2 tours a year. So I'll let them know, here's where it should be. I understand that you're just getting started. You're a micro client. This is a unique situation. So I will give you a scholarship so that your total that you're paying is a lower, but we're going to be reevaluating like every quarter. We're going to be increasing your price as you grow. And I'm still in the middle of all this, so I don't know how it's going to work out, but I want them to not get in their mind that she's only $100 a month.
Yeah.
Because then they tell all their friends and all their colleagues, she's only $100 a month. And then they come in and they expect that, because I've had that bite me in the rear, where one of my good referral clients, she's one of these smaller companies, and she's telling everybody. And I had someone come in and she flipped her lid when I said $300 a month. I mean, she really went off. And then I said, well, okay, if I'm not, I always have QuickBooks Live in my back pocket. If I'm not your cup of tea, which is fine, I'm not everybody's cup of tea. This isn't in line with what you were expecting, then here's QuickBooks Live, They start at $200 a month. She lost it, absolutely lost it. How could you refer me to them? I'm like, but this is my pricing, so
Yeah.
she's a client. But I just don't want word to get out that, oh, she's only this much a month. I want to have that little bit of an anchor there that,
Yeah.
oh, here's her pricing. I'm getting a special deal because I'm so small, but also we're going to expect it. But yeah, typically it's $300 a month is my minimum. I really, really look at what they can afford, and because, I'm in their books, so I can see, oh, this isn't something, but I also try to gauge what they're expecting too.
What their goals are. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like if they come in with, $25 a month or something, they clearly don't know anything about what they're talking about and have never really looked at what an accountant or anybody like that costs.
Yeah.
My goodness, they can't even afford their QuickBooks subscription, So that's another thing. Am I going to have to pay for their subscription? Is that included in the fee, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard pricing. I'm not a good pricer. I'm really not. I need to
It's
get
a tough
better.
One, but that's one of the areas that when I did narrow down my niche,
A great
when I did
controversy.
narrow that whole thing down, pricing did get easier because you understand the needs of the business. You understand in general how long things are going to take with these softwares like you talked about, right? So it does get easier. And for us, like I know I've talked about this on previous episodes, but we only use Xero. And one of the things that we are able to offer is unlimited transactions, because for us, the way that the Xero reconciliation functions is I can reconcile 400 transaction lines super easily in the click of a button if they're all the same, which with our industry, those transactions usually are, because they're launching a course. It's all the same price. It all goes to one place, right? So it's like, we set up a rule, we click the button, we reconcile the bank in like 5 minutes, whether it has 10 transactions or 400. You know what I mean? If they're all the same. So it's like, for us, it's like, we're not going to penalize you for the launch model. It's all, and that has really helped our pricing and everything, because you're more aware of what's going on and what to expect. So hopefully pricing will get easier for you, and you have your GoProposal set up. And
I do. I'm a tweaker. It's like, is everything ever actually set up exactly? Because I'm always like, I don't know. I'm always like, I really need to fix that, or I need to adjust this or that or whatever. But yeah, or even just like the preliminary questionnaires. And my goal is to eventually be able to have them self-select out of me. Like, oh, I'm not there yet. When I am, then I can work with Kirstin or something. But then again, am I going to end up with a huge cleanup whenever these people come on with me? I don't know, but I need to not be so nice, because like I'm trying to save the world and help everybody, even when they're just getting started. I can't do that.
That's not sustainable.
It's not. It's not.
We've all been there though.
Yeah.
But yeah, self-selecting, I have this conversation with, I think Alyssa and I talked about it on a podcast episode, but I don't offer free discovery calls unless they've already filled out a contact form and I have like, they are aware what my minimum price is, things like that. So I'm sure I'm missing out on a lot of opportunities because they never even get to the point of filling out the form, because at the top of it, it says, this is our minimum price. Are you okay with that? If so, continue on.
Exactly. Well, that's exactly, because tire kickers take up time and you don't have that.
Yeah, especially as we're only working 20 hours a week.
Yeah, I do not have time.
I don't have time to be on calls all day.
Right. With someone who's just, oh, I just want to check out what your price is or something like that. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. When they know upfront, or, here's your minimum gross revenues in order to work with me, in order to make it worth your time and money to work with me, here's what you need to be making. If not, contact me when you are making that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Eventually I would love to come up with some sort of, not necessarily a do-it-yourself course, but something to offer, like I forget what it's called, but like a second sale or something. I forget what it's called, where, okay, if you can't work with me, here's a course that'll at least help you get started.
Yeah, like a downsell.
Yeah, downsell, because that way it'll keep me somewhat in their mind a little bit. In theory, but I know this won't be in practice, their books won't be a mess whenever I do get a hold of them, but I just know they will be.
Yeah.
Which, that's what we have cleanups for. But yeah, I am wanting to come out with that eventually. And again, have it be geared toward this industry. And they can even choose, oh, I'm a multi-day tour, I need this package or this course, or I am an activity company, or I'm a travel agent. And that way it'll gear it toward their industry. I am wanting to only work in those 3 verticals, though, nothing else.
Yeah. Have you thought about offering, instead of like a monthly package, offering like a one-time, let me set up your books and train you, and then you check in with them in 6 months?
I don't like that. And I think because I don't enjoy training people.
Okay.
I have tried that. It did not go well. I would rather create a video and then maybe have like something where they can ask me questions, maybe like like email questions, not even on person or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I don't like live training, especially if it's on a time, like here's an hour of training, because it just has not gone well. And I don't like it at all.
So I have an idea for you then to help you build this course out. The next referral that you get that is like, they really can't afford more than $100 a month, offer to say, okay, instead, would you be willing to let me use you as a guinea pig to record a course on how to set this up, or to record some videos on how to set up a business like yours? I will blur the videos on their business name, but that way I can set up a process and help people like you in the future. And then either offer it to them for free or $100. You know what I mean?
Would you be training them live or just using their books?
Just using them as the data to set up the books.
Okay. Because I was like, I kind of tried that with some, but it was all live training. And like I said, it just did not.
Yeah, because this, you want to be able to do it on your own time. You want to be able to take it slow, make the videos good quality, but you need real data.
Exactly.
That's the hard part. And then you can send it off to somebody to edit it, but also Loom now has like blur options and things like that. So, and then you can really take it slow and be like, okay, what is my process from A to Z setting up a client, and, chunk it into little videos, and then you have your course.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. I like that.
And now everybody else has this idea because it's on a podcast.
Yeah. Well, it's the data piece, because that's where the trouble often comes in, is this data. But I like that. I like that a lot. And inevitably on a live training, somehow the software will have changed in between, because I happened on one of my live trainings, and then the person I was training was like, well, we spent 10 minutes while you were looking for the thing, because they had moved it on the software. And I thought, oh my goodness. Okay. So I like that idea. Thank you.
The other aspect is like, that'll show people how to set up their books, but to be able to like show them how to maintain it going forward, you would still need to stay in that person's books and have access for like a month or two to see transactions coming in and showing a process. So, also you're going to need a contract for that and a waiver from them probably of like, I agree to be allowed the use of my data, but I understand it's going to be blurred out, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, if you're up for it, like that's an option.
Yeah, I like that. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Because I want to help, like I said, I want to help all the people, but I can't help all the people. It's a struggle all the time, especially when they keep coming, oh, I want your help. Yes, I know you do.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing your experience and about your niche with our listeners. I know there's going to be some valuable nuggets in here that people can take away and kind of apply to their own business. So if someone wants to connect with you, refer you clients that they can't help that you can, where's the best place to do that?
I do have a website, but it's not updated severely. That's purpletaxes.com. That's just all one word, purpletaxes.com. And then I am on Facebook. It's also just facebook.com. I guess it's a / or / whatever it is, / I don't know, Purple Taxes. Again, all one word. And my business name is Purple Sapphire Business Solutions, but that is too long for a URL. So I went with Purple Taxes. And now everybody thinks my name is Purple Taxes. So whatever. I answered everything, just like my real name. I answered everything. So,
well, thank you so much. I appreciate the time you took today, and it's always a pleasure to get to chat with you. It's been a while.
It has been a while. I can't wait to see you again in person.
I know. All right. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you to everyone who helps make this podcast possible. Content and interviews are produced by me, Serena Shoup. Our intro and outro music is written and performed by my brother, Ian Gilliam. Editing is also by Ian using his awesome sound engineering skills along with Descript software. Hosting and publishing is by Buzzsprout, and you can check out the show notes for links to all of these amazing resources and resources mentioned in the episode.
Embrace ambition.